Okay, in this video we're going to talk about the HTML and JavaScript that goes into this game, and we're going to focus in this video on drawing on the canvas. So the way this game, we'll just first give a short explanation of what the game's doing. So this is the sun and this is supposed to be a planet. I can add more planets. And it's a network game, so if I open up another window, every person that connects gets a different color up to a maximum of some number. And this right here is just doing the calculations for gravity, acceleration due to gravity, for all these planets in this star. It's keeping track of each player gets 20 planets to put in and how many are actually left that haven't been thrown out of the solar system. So if you just throw a bunch in there, it goes kind of crazy. And so I'm going to reset and reset. And something happened with that one. Okay. So what I want to do here is just look at what it takes to draw this stuff on the screen without the networking part. So the networking part has to do with the different players sending information and coordinating. It's not real complicated, but we'll look at the drawing first. Okay, so to do that, we'll start by opening up the code. This is at this address on the server that's here, CS603 and Gravity Game. And I did not specify a page here. That means it's index. So by default that goes to a file called index.html. Alright, this is the code that's there, and if you want to view the code over here, you could inspect. And that shows the HTML code, and all there is a single tag that's a canvas. So this here is a canvas. I give it an ID so that I can use it in JavaScript, a width and a height. And then inside of my head is my JavaScript. There's the title, there's some style that I don't think, okay, so that's just giving the background, and a script. Okay, so the script there is not very easy to look at, so we'll look at it over here. And I'm going to save off a second version of the game so we can just see what's happening with the drawing. Okay, so this is index 2. And I'm just going to strip down a lot of the, so I want to get rid of all the networking stuff. I'll leave the timer. That's pretty fast. Okay, let's just look at what actually happens here. So when a page loads, you load up, the body has the page, and then the canvas is just an HTML tag. So that's this HTML tag here. In my JavaScript, I have defined a function here. So this is a function without a name, so the parenthesis matches up down here with this parenthesis. That parenthesis at the top matches up with this one. That is the definition of an anonymous function. So it doesn't have a name, and the reason for that is we don't have a global variable that's conflicting with something else. Alright, and then this double parenthesis makes the function run. So this is just a silly little way to have some JavaScript run without a global variable. Note, this is so we run the code without using any global variables. So all the variables that I have are inside of this function here. So all of these, I don't have to worry about them conflicting with variables with other JavaScript stuff. So here's another JavaScript file, gravity.js. Okay, so this function runs. These variables are set up. I guess I don't need this if I'm getting rid of the networking stuff. These are just some variables, and then we have a window.onload. That's a JavaScript thing that says this is a function that's going to run when the page has already loaded. So after the canvas is already displayed, the next thing that happens is this resize is a function that I have that's down here. Canvas, so this will get my canvas and the world ID. So this is the world ID here, which matches up with my document.getElementById here. If you have an element, you can set an onClick. So this canvas onClick is set to a function called leftClick, which is here. So that's where I want to create a planet. Gravity is coming out of here, and I think I'm going to just get rid of that actually, just to make this a little bit simpler. Okay, redraw is one of my functions, and then window.setTimeout is a timer. I'm going to get rid of everything called gravity. Okay, I just stripped out a bunch of stuff. So we'll just have the file that we're going to be looking at right now. All that I do so far is just put these planets on. Okay, so let's take a look at the code to do that. So we have our onload. For the resizing, I'm just setting the canvas width and height to 1280 and 720, and by default that is in pixels, which is, that's the height and the width of that right there. And then so my redraw, I'll look at it in a second, and my timer runs, but it's not currently doing anything, it just redraws. Okay, so let's take a look at the left click. So I have canvas.onClick is left click. So here is my left click. So this variable here is the canvas because it's world ID. This new obj is creating an object that has member variables x, y, vx, vy, m, and color and r. Okay, so those, I can make anything I want to here, and then the rest of my code is going to use that. So the x I'm thinking about is where the planet is, and inside of a click function you have the variable, and then client x and client y are the coordinates. Vx and vy, I'm using that in the other program to do gravity stuff, but we don't need it here. So color I have as a color here, and R I'm thinking of that as a radius. Items is initialized to be an empty array here, but when I click I add to it. Planets remaining is a variable that starts at 20, and I go down, and if I want to enforce that, then I would say if planets remaining is less or equal to 0, return. Okay, so let's just try that out. Okay, so once I am done the left click, so I don't do this stuff. Alright, then I'll look at redraw. So this just sets up an array of these objects, which is keeping track of which circles I want to be on the screen. And then redraw is supposed to actually do it. Redraw is the thing that's actually dealing with the canvas. So first thing is to get the canvas, and then to get the 2D, two-dimensional context. So this is always the same if you're doing this two-dimensional kind of drawing. Okay, then this clear rect clears the screen, and so then every time I draw it, I'm sort of starting from scratch and drawing everything. This loop here goes through the items array, starting at 0, going up to the length. And then I have my I++ here. Okay, so the ith item in my list is this O. I just set it as a variable to make it shorter for typing. Don't really need that here. My planets equals, I'm not really using my planets here, so okay. The context, there's a bunch of stuff that can happen in the context, and if you go and look at JavaScript Canvas, W3 Schools is a good site. You click through, you'll see some of this stuff. So fill style, there's different things you can set there. One is if you set a color, you can set patterns as well. O.color will be coming out of here, and that my color is just set to white up there, so it's drawing white. Okay, begin path starts a drawing operation, and then this arc is the center, X and Y coordinates of the center of an arc, the radius, which was 4, and then the beginning and ending angle, so 0 and then 2 pi radians. That's a full circle, and then fill to fill it in. Okay, so this together draws a circle, and this sets the color. Alright, so this will go through the items and draw them all. Then this part down here is doing some text on here. Player white, new planets left 17, your planets alive 3. Alright. Oh, there's the my planets. So let's just get rid of this. Okay, so that is the basics of drawing. And then if I want the objects to move, then the way to do that is you have a timer, and then we would have something happen inside of the timer. And right now I'm having the timer go off every 100 milliseconds. Why don't I do 500 milliseconds? And then if I want something to change, then I should do something inside the timer. So here's one thing I could do. So each of these items had an X and a Y, which was keeping track. So every half second, I'm increasing the X by 10 and decreasing the Y. And which way will that make the object go? I do that for all the items and then redraw. So the way the coordinates are set up here, this is 0 for X and larger for X. And this is 0 for Y, and this is larger for Y. So if I increase the X, I should see the circles going this way, and if I decrease the Y, I should see them going this way. Let's see. So it's going this way and this way. And if I want to keep track of the items falling off the screen, I could do that in, well, anywhere. So I could do it in here. And then I could say, all right, if items I dot y is less than 0, items dot think that's happening in Gravity. Splice. Okay. Dot splice I1. So what this does is it takes out the ith item and only one of those. So either I'm going to do that or I'm moving on. So I only have the I++ if I don't remove. If I remove the ith item, then after that the next thing would be still at the ith spot. So if I have this, then if it goes above here, it won't be on my list anymore, which is fine because I'm not drawing it. And if you wanted them to change in some other way, then we would do something else instead of this. Let's see what else. If we want to change the time, if we want to make them go faster, we could change the step so it looks kind of smoother. If we want to start off with some items initially there, then I could do this inside of my onload before my first redraw. So I could do event doesn't exist here. Canvas dot width over 2, canvas dot height over 2, radius 20, color yellow. So there's the sun. And I have this console window open because I want to see if there's any JavaScript errors. Let's just say I take out a semicolon. Okay, now I see an error. All right. Okay, so we'll say that's it for the canvas. What you would want to do is start with some simple HTML JavaScript that already works, and then when you want to do something, you look it up in the W3 schools. Alright, so then we'll have a separate video for the networking and a separate video for how does Gravity work.